Alright, so just a little bit about specialized leaf adaptation. So pretty much when we talk about all of these different plants, we need to think about all of these different adaptations they have to their particular environments that make them the most successful. So some of the stuff, including size of the leaf, amount of surface area, actually corresponds to all of the limiting factors within that plant's ecosystem. So for example, shade plants actually have very large leaves to increase exposure to sunlight, while plants living in dry climates actually have reduced surface area to minimize water loss through the stomata. Carnivorous plants are something really interesting because they actually have leaves that are modified to trap insects. So for example, the pitcher plant and the Venus flytrap actually trap the insect inside. The Venus flytrap quickly responds actually by closing around the insect, and the leaves of the pitcher plant are actually curved and slick, and the insect will fall inside and not be able to get out. So leaves can actually be modified for protection as well. Think cactus have very sharp spines, while holly leaves have very sharp points on them. All of these are going to keep predators from actually eating that plant because no one wants to get stuck in the mouth while they're trying to enjoy a nice little dinner. Stems are actually the organ of the plant that are responsible for the support and the transport of materials, so that translocation, movement, and stems actually can be adapted for specific plant needs within a particular ecosystem. A tuber is actually a stem that's modified for storing food. The food is produced as a simple sugar during photosynthesis with glucose, and actually converted to a starch for long-term storage. So, for example, potatoes are underground stems that are actually modified for food storage. A succulent plant stores water, so think about all of the different succulents that you can see. A lot of times they are desert plants because they are designed to store water. So they typically live in very dry areas. So for example, the desert cactus has very succulent stems. Tendrils are actually structures on stems that are modified to wind tightly around objects such as trees or trellises, and they tend to be very important for vines that actually, because it allows them to actually grow and to gain access to that sunlight. So, for example, honeysuckle vines actually climb using tendrils. The last little part about stems we're going to look at are runners, and these are stems that actually grow out to take root and produce new plants. So, for example, a strawberry plant actually spreads using runners. So it kind of looks like a cladogram if you look at it. All right, roots are very important for plants because these are the organs that are responsible for absorbing water, anchoring that plant, and actually can also store food. So root adaptations often correspond to the soil types of a particular area and the needs of that particular plant. A taproot is actually a main large root. It's usually joined to a couple secondary roots. These provide a strong anchor and allows the plant to actually reach water far below the Earth's surface. So some taproots are actually able to store food, such as the carrot. So if you think about it, a carrot is actually a root. Fibrous roots are smaller branching roots, and these pretty much increase the surface area and allow for quicker water absorption. A lot of them grow together to actually form a mat system called sod. So for example, grasses actually use fibrous roots. Root hairs is the last little bit that we'll talk about with roots. Specialized cells that actually increase the surface area of the root, allowing for that faster absorption of water. So look at these. A lot of these are talking about food storage, water storage, access to water. It's because those are the necessary things for life. So through evolution, all of these different adaptations have caused these plants to figure out what they need in their particular ecosystem, and those good traits were passed on from generation to generation. So plants exhibit a number of growth responses that actually are linked to environmental rhythms. So a lot of times plants do funky things based off of their particular environment. So plants may only flower during certain times of the year as a response to the number of hours of lightness and darkness they receive. So for example, the amount of daylight is greater during the summer months, so our plants are mainly going to flower in the spring and summer. During unfavorable seasons, that's a big word, plants may actually limit their growth or actually cease to grow altogether. So this is actually called dormancy. And so if you think of something being a dormant state, it's going to kind of stay the same. And it enables plants to actually survive periods of water shortages or lower temperatures. So for example, deciduous trees actually shed all of their leaves in the fall to prevent that water loss. So at this point, what you need to be doing is answering the check yourself questions. You need to go through the problem solving set and complete that as well. Please use your notes to kind of help you with that. And you also need to complete the concept map on page 174. So all of this information is very vital to kind of understanding plants and understanding all of the different aspects about them, including all of these different adaptations.